who is chair of CND, and as my notes say, which is a non-violent campaign against nuclear weapons. But I think you knew that anyway. So.
Thanks very much indeed, Stephen. It's great to see so many people here today. Now, every day it seems to me there's a new reason to oppose Donald Trump. We've heard many of these already. Yesterday, he blamed a rise in UK crime on radical Islamic terror. Last week, he sabotaged the Iranian nuclear deal, he trashed attempts to negotiate over North Korea, and he lied to and disrespected US veterans and their families. Just add that to months of racism, sexism, homophobia, and every conceivable abuse that we know about already. This represents the utter degradation of the US political system. And I know that from today we all stand together with the people of the US who are opposing this complete political catastrophe. But it's not just a US problem. Trump represents and articulates a global problem. And I think his recent speech in the United Nations General Assembly said it all. If you heard it, I'm sure you'll agree, it was a real throwback to George Bush's Axis of Evil speech from 2002, but he didn't just go that far, he built upon that, and he enlarged the number of countries that he targeted as regimes, wrecking regimes internationally. He added to the list, well actually he removed Iraq, we all know what happened to Iraq, but he enlarged the list and he added Cuba and Venezuela. And we must be very alert to that. There's a huge amount of misinformation in our media about the situation in Venezuela. The reality is Trump is pushing a regime change agenda there, supporting and generating far-right politics and pursuing sanctions. And we must all do what we can to expose the truth about what's happening in Venezuela and work to defend the gains of the Bolivarian revolution. So, when Trump came to power, there was a moment when some claimed that he was anti-NATO and anti-interventionist. Remember that moment? Well, that couldn't have been more wrong. We've seen his role now, his orientation towards militant interventionism. We know that he's heading for confrontation and nuclear war, and what's more, he wants all of us to pay for his wars too. And I'm sure we're all painfully aware that we stand the greatest risk of nuclear war since we faced in the 1980s. But I'm sure we also all know that the reality is very simple. Trump is a boost for the far right and reactionary politics across the world, not just in the United States, across the world. And he gives succor to fascists wherever they are to be found, as well as to the Ku Klux Klan in his own country. So, when a Trump visit is planned, whether or not he has tea with the Queen, what do we say? I think that we will say we must mobilise to stop that. We will not tolerate a visit from this criminal. Accept that this criminal comes here. Now I believe that we must open our borders, but we open our borders to refugees, to migrants, to suffering humanity, to welcome and embrace our brothers and sisters from across the world. We welcome them, but we do not welcome Donald Trump, and we will never allow him to.